Aside from 3 basic types of Haki, there are actually 20 different forms in total. Take the common hardening and imbuement for example, which allow the user to boost their physical body and weapons by coating them with pitch black Haki. But there are crazier types you might not know about, like the voice of all things, which allows communication with ancient and supreme beings like Zunisha and Neptunians. And there's even the breath of all things, which can essentially sense non-living objects. Yet all these types of Haki are pretty simple compared to the rarest and most powerful type of Haki there is, Conqueror's Haki, aka the Supreme King Haki. Now I really want to explain to you the ancestral giant robot Emmet's Haki, but so you can understand it, I'm going to explain the Supreme King Haki first. It's basically the ultimate flex of willpower. Just by mere presence and a mean look, the user can dominate and paralyze anyone nearby. It's so rare that only 1 in a million people is born with it. But aside from the likes of Luffy, Rocks, and Kaido, there's another pirate you're probably not expecting to possess Conqueror's Haki. The thing is, he's not even aware of it yet. Man, at this point he's literally a late bloomer, right? Unlike Observation and Armament Haki, this type isn't something that can be learned. The only way to achieve it is if you are born with this power. But even though it can't be learned, people blessed with this power can still improve it, simply by getting even stronger. And usually, people with Conqueror's Haki are marked as true leaders with qualities of a king. For example, there's a Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army, Monkey D. Dragon, the former Fleet Admiral of the Marines, Sengoku the Buddha, and of course Goldie Roger, who became King of the Pirates. Even in his death, Roger was so influential that he even started the Great Pirate Era. But speaking of influence, would you believe me if I said that the pirate I've mentioned earlier is actually Buggy? I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. Buggy's influence definitely isn't a joke. He reached the status of a warlord and now became one of the emperors of the sea. Thanks to his unconventional tactics and honestly his comic but great speeches mixed with a bit of luck, he became the leader of the powerhouse Cross Guild. And this subreddit discussion also suggested that Buggy having Conqueror's Haki is totally possible. Aside from his influence in building a massive criminal empire, the discussion also pointed out that Buggy possesses extreme willpower. Even when faced with death at the hands of Crocodile and Mihawk, he stayed as cunning as ever, and even turned the tables when he declared that he wanted to become the king of the pirates and claim the One Piece. It's a bit hard to believe, but it's actually pretty cool since Buggy now kinda stands on equal footing with his fellow apprentice from the Pirate King's ship, Shanks. In case you forgot, the first time that Conqueror's Haki was showcased was when Shanks fended off the Lord of the Coast back in East Blue to protect Luffy. It may have been the first time, but it's definitely not the most badass. When Luffy was trying to save his big bro, Ace, from execution, I know I wasn't the only one thinking, what the heck is that insane ability? Because that was the first time it was even used and mentioned. But it's not like Luffy was aware of it at the time. When Luffy mastered it after the time skip, he was able to defeat half of Hody Jones' 100k army in the Ryugu Kingdom easily. Now that's what you call badass. In its basic form, this Haki can knock out weaker opponents without even lifting a finger. It's kind of like a mental ability that's so powerful, it manifests a physical toll on the target, basically causing them to pass out. But this basic form took a whole nother level when Emmet, the ancestral giant robot, surprisingly unleashed its trump card to help save Luffy, whom the robot addressed as Joy Boy. Emmet released a powerful Haki stored and tied in a simple knot, which was actually Joy Boy's preserved Conqueror's Haki. It was so powerful, it stunned all the Marines within range, reverted the 5 elders back to their human forms, and even sent these grandpas back to Mary Joie. Chapter 1122 revealed that Joy Boy was able to seal his powerful Haki inside Emmet through a knot, which was strangely endured through time from the Void Century. And when the time is right, the giant robot can release a stored Haki to unleash a one-shot, big shot Conqueror's Haki. The giants, Dory and Broggy, even said that Joy Boy's Haki might surpass Shanks' God tier Haki, which I'll be explaining along with the other types of Conqueror's Haki in just a few minutes. I was just thinking, since Joy Boy's Conqueror's Haki sent the Gorosei back to the Holy Land, it's possible these old guys also used Haki when they went to Egghead, kinda like an ancient type teleportation Haki. You see, Haki can be nullified by a superior Haki. Since the Gorosei were sent back to Mary Joie when Joy Boy's Haki was released, the only explanation for how they instantly traveled to Egghead is that they used Haki, which was then cancelled out by Joy Boy's preserved Haki. Now, aside from these ancient-like types of Haki, there are also others that grant insane abilities, like the one that gives its user Spider-Man-like powers, senses, the Observation Haki. Using the basic form of this Haki gives you spidey senses, like your friendly neighborhood superhero's tingling powers, because it makes a user aware of the presence of anyone, especially the enemies lurking in the shadows and waiting for a chance to attack. Mastering this ability will let you detect the location, number, and movements of enemies even when they're out of sight. One of the most skilled users of the basic form would be Enel, in Skypiea, where they call the power of observation Haki mantra. Enel could sense the presence of pretty much everyone in Skypiea. This guy was like a one-man CCTV. But aside from Enel's super wide range abilities, Usopp's awakening has to be the most badass moment for using the basic observation Haki. Remember when the Straw Hat sniper nailed an impossible shot to prank Sugar? It was so damn far that Usopp couldn't even see Luffy and Law along with Sugar inside the palace in Dressrosa. But because of his determination, Usopp was able to unlock his observation Haki and see people's aura even if he couldn't physically see them. Actually, it's not surprising because Usopp's insane abilities have been showcased a lot of times now. Just like back in Enies Lobby, he managed to save Robin and shoot Spandam from a distance even guns couldn't reach. And now the Straw Hats are on their way to Elbaf. It's possible that it's gonna be Usopp's time to shine. After all, he set out to become a brave warrior of the sea, just like the giant warriors of Elbaf that he was eager to visit ever since the Straw Hats met Dory and Broggy back in Little Garden. Since I have mentioned Skypiea, there's actually a theory that shows the parallel connections between Sky Island and Elbaf, suggesting it will really be Usopp's arc. Here's how the story fits. Skypiea started with the legend of Noland, a character easily comparable to Usopp. According to the theory, 1. They both are related to plants. Noland was a botanist who basically studied plants and the environment, while Usopp uses plant-based attacks and weapons. This guy's kinda like me, I just eat plant-based meals. 2. They are considered liars. Like Noland had great adventures, but nobody believed in him. On the other hand, Usopp had a lot of make-believe adventures where people like Kaya, Chopper, and sometimes Luffy believed him. It's like Elbaf was actually destined to be Usopp's stage. Also, it could be possible that Usopp might unlock a new type of observation Haki. If you remember in the movie One Piece film, Red, Usopp and his dad, Usopp, were able to share their visions. And that's not even the most impressive part, because they actually did it while they were in different dimensions. Since the movies are essentially non-canon, it's a bit unsure if it will be an actual power of observation Haki in the series. But wouldn't it be crazy if Usopp could unlock this kind of unique ability? Aside from the basic form, there are actually different types of observation Haki that can be achieved by mastering the technique. For example, power detection. Observation Haki doesn't just let you sense people, it can also give you a reading on how strong they are. Kinda like how a scouter works in Dragon Ball Z. And it's not just strength. With this Haki, the user can also gauge the Haki of other people. Like back in Impel Down where Blackbeard said that Luffy's Haki had leveled up since the time he met him in Jaya. But it doesn't stop there. Skilled users of this type of observation Haki can even sense the strength of a weapon. When the unlikely team of Luffy, Zoro, Law, and Kid fought Big Mom and Kaido, Big Mom noticed the powerful aura that Zoro's sword Enma was emitting. Though don't forget that Enma is one of the highest graded swords, which is why it could release such a strong aura. So I guess detection might only work on powerful weapons and not on all kinds of weapons. Another type of observation Haki would be the more complex emotion reading. This literally means that the user can feel the emotions of the people around them. Honestly, I think this would be my Haki, because you know how damn hard it is to check your girl's vibe sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Usually the more compassionate people are the ones who are able to unlock this type of observation Haki. In the past, Otohime was shown to have this power when she felt the suffering in Fisher Tiger's heart. And I think a good example would be Admiral Fujitora. Like bro, he's basically blind, so he heavily relies on observation Haki just to see his surroundings. Back in Dressrosa, he was able to sense the real emotions of the people who were basically glad that Luffy saved their country from Doflamingo's evil reign. But like I said, emotion reading is a bit complex, because if the user can't control it, they could be burdened by the emotions they absorb and eventually be drowned by them. Like how Kobe broke down when he sensed that the battlefield during Marineford War was full of negative emotions like pain, fear, and suffering. After all the losses on both sides, the young Marine thought that the Navy had already won the war after Whitebeard and Ace died. So there was nothing more to gain if the Marines and pirates continued fighting. So, do you think that uncontrollable Haki like this type could also be dangerous to the user? I mean, what if they go crazy because of the overwhelming emotions? This Haki could also be a bit tricky since there might be people who can manipulate emotion readers by deeply hiding their feelings or something. That's why aside from emotion reading, motive sensing is also a crucial type of observation Haki. Essentially, it's the power to detect someone's intent before they even make a move. This technique is crucial, especially during battles, since it gives the user the edge by predicting the enemy's attacks, making it easier to dodge, block, or counter them. Still, it's basically just like a visual power, because even if the user can predict the target's movements, it could be impossible to stop the attacks if you don't have the capabilities to match the target's speed and strength. Just like how Luffy overpowered the Gorgon sisters of the Kuya tribe by using his second gear against the observation Haki of Sandersonia and Marigold. But here's the thing, the Haki only works if the other person is consciously aiming at you. It won't work if the target is just flailing around or acting randomly, like when Luffy uses Gomu Gomu no Space Out against Enel. It completely threw off Enel's mantra. All of these abilities of observation Haki might sound crazy, but they're actually the simplest forms of observation Haki. On top of these techniques, there's advanced observation Haki, which literally gives its user the power to see beyond just predictions, future sight. With this peak power, you don't just sense what's coming, you actually see a vision of the exact future a few seconds before it happens. And the amount of future they can see depends on their mastery of the advanced technique. But with this insane ability, there's always a catch. According to Katakuri, a cool head can only unlock the full potential of future sight. The calmer the user is, the sharper their Haki. Like when Katakuri was surprised after Luffy saw him eating, this gave Luffy a chance to land a hit after Katakuri's Haki fell apart. Observation Haki might be the simplest of the three basic types of Haki and has a huge number of known users, but only a few have achieved the more advanced future sight. Shanks is one of the few, and it's even so powerful that he didn't just master observation Haki, he also learned the power to counter it, which earned him the title, the Observation Haki Killer. And it actually falls under a completely different type of Haki, which I'll deal with in just a moment. Probably the most well-known and commonly used type of Haki is Armament Haki. Because of the power upgrading the user's offense and defense stats, it can easily turn the tide of any battle, even against Devil Fruit users, especially Logia types, who are practically invincible because of the elemental powers they can turn into. Just like when Rayleigh clashed with Kizaru, back when the Admiral was trying to eliminate all the Straw Hats. The Dark King was able to land a hit on Kizaru's real body after nullifying the Admiral's Devil Fruit powers. Back then I really thought the Dark King was literally wearing sea stone sandals. Damn, that's a tongue twister. Well, you can't blame me because that was basically the first time a Logia type like Kizaru's power were bypassed. In its basic form, Armament Haki allows the user to power up their body in attacks to land critical blows. When Luffy returned to Sabaody after training for 2 years, he one-shotted a pacifista with an attack infused with basic Armament Haki. The first time basic Armament Haki was probably shown was as early as Chapter 574, when the Whitebeard commanders Vista and Marco fought Akainu in the Marineford War. But that's just the tip of the iceberg for this type of Haki. When fully unleashed, it gives the user an extreme upgrade by coating a body part or even a weapon in its other forms. These forms of Armament Haki include hardening. When the user coats a part of their body in slick black armor, it becomes 1,000 times stronger. Like it could even tank sword attacks and bullets. Aside from the impressive defense it provides, it also increases the offensive power of the user. Take for example, Don Chinjiao. With his insane drill-shaped head and Armament Haki hardening, Grandpa could easily break through the toughest crystal ice sheet in the ice continent. But that doesn't mean hardening makes a user totally invincible. A stronger Armament Haki can outmatch an opponent even if the user is coated with pitch black Haki. Just like when Garp showcased his superior Armament Haki by punching Chinjiao's mighty drill head flat. Actually, for Luffy, hardening is one of the basis of his Gear 3rd and 4th forms. By channeling this type of Armament Haki, Luffy powers up his Gear 3rd attacks, delivering devastating blows like Elephant Gun, Elephant Bazooka, and even the combination of the two, the Grizzly Magnum. And it's not just parts of Luffy's body. When transforming into Gear 4th, Luffy's basically manifesting Armament Haki hardening to its full potential, using his whole body. But using the full extent of this Haki's potential has its drawbacks. Continuous use can eventually take a huge toll on the body. For Luffy, he can't use Haki for 10 minutes after reaching the limit of his Bounce Man form. Aside from Luffy, there are actual masters of this type of Haki who can completely coat their whole body and be looking like Black Panther. Virgo and Pika, the Doflamingo family, are among the few who can coat their entire body with Armament Haki. But that doesn't mean they're unbeatable either. Law defeated and killed Virgo back in Punk Hazard, and Zoro overwhelmed Pika with his own Haki in Dressrosa. Actually, when Zoro defeated Pika, he used another type of Armament Haki, imbuement. It's not just a body that can get a massive power boost. The user's weapons can also be coated with Haki. Some of the most skilled users at infusing Haki into their weapons are the Kuya tribe. These people can turn simple arrows into powerful weapons that can punch through solid stone. After training with Mihawk, Zoro was able to master this type of Haki. Back in Dressrosa, Zoro easily cut through Pika's massive stone form by imbuing all 3 of his swords with Haki, defeating Doflamingo's top officer even though Pika had coated his entire body with Haki. Additionally, according to Mihawk, coating a weapon with Haki keeps it in perfect shape and safe from any damage. But that's not all. The ultimate level of mastering this kind of Haki is turning your blade into a black blade. It is said that if you keep using this Haki on a weapon, it can permanently turn black, making it way stronger than usual. So far, only 2 swordsmen have pulled this off. The strongest swordsman, Mihawk, with his supreme grade Yoru, and Wano's legendary hero, Shimotsuki Ryuma, with his sword Shusui. If you guys aren't convinced that these swordsmen and their weapons are top tier, just think about how Roger didn't acquire a black blade using his supreme grade sword, Ace. If that's the case, do you think Zoro will eventually achieve a black blade? Because bro has 3 chances to do it. Maybe with Enma or his Kitetsu blade, but honestly I think it would be more meaningful if Wado Ichimonji were the one to turn into a black blade. Kinda like a symbol that Zoro has fulfilled his promise to Kuina to become the greatest swordsman, using the very sword of his childhood friend. Just like Observation Haki, there are also advanced forms of Armament Haki, known as Ryu and Wano, and compared to the hardening and imbuement, they're on a completely different level. Like the advanced technique called emission, instead of just coating a body part or weapon, the user can land a powerful blow without even touching their target, by sending out Haki like an invisible attack. When Sentomaru arrived in Sabaody, he was able to inflict damage on Luffy using this form of Haki. And when Rayleigh was teaching Luffy during the time skip, he casually stopped a raging beast using emission. That's just the simplest form of this Haki. After fighting Kaido the first time, Luffy realized that the usual armament Haki wasn't enough to even hurt, let alone beat Kaido. That's why Luffy trained with boss Hyogoro to power up his armament Haki and learn about Wano's Ryu. According to Old Man Hyo, by controlling the flow of Haki within the body, armament Haki wouldn't just have a pitch black coat, but it would also create an invisible armor that can destroy the target from the inside. After countless battles as a prisoner in Udon, Luffy didn't just learn about emission, he also unlocked the full potential of advanced armament Haki, internal destruction. It's like another upgrade from emission, since the Haki released by the user can blow up the target from the inside out. Internal destruction is arguably the most powerful move using armament Haki since it can bypass even Kaido's tough body. With this type of Haki, Luffy created a new attack that gave us insane goosebumps when he punched Kaido with Red Rock. It's not just observation and armament Haki that have insane upgrades. Conqueror's Haki also has its advanced forms. Take for example, pressure. Aside from domination and incapacitation, which target people, this next level Conqueror's Haki can even affect the surroundings. Shanks proved his top-notch Haki when he met Whitebeard. Like bro was just walking, but the pressure of his presence didn't just knock out Whitebeard's underlings, it also damaged the ship itself. When Shanks and the former Yonko clashed, their powers were enough to reach the sky and split the heavens apart. Their Haki created sparks of black lightning. That may have seemed crazy, but when Prime Whitebeard and Roger fought, their clash of swords didn't just reach the sky, it basically cleared the heavens. Their Haki created sparks of black lightning and sent shockwaves across the entire island, almost destroying it along with their ships. If you noticed, in that classic matchup between the 2 strongest men of their generation, Whitebeard and Roger, their weapons weren't even touching. That's because of a type of Conqueror's Haki that only a select few can pull off: infusion. Basically works the same as armament Haki, like coating a body part or a weapon, but it's 1,000 times stronger, since it can even clear mountains and reshape entire terrains. At the same time, Zoro was hinted to possess Conqueror's Haki. He showed his will and determination to save Luffy from Kaido by unknowingly infusing Supreme King Haki into his ultimate attack, 9-sword style, Ashura. Bro, that was one hell of a moment for Zoro when he managed to slice Kaido, right? Even Luffy hadn't managed to hurt Kaido before that. This form of Haki was so powerful that after Luffy lost to Kaido, he was able to get back on his feet and literally went toe-to-toe with Kaido after learning to apply Conqueror's Haki to his attacks, something Luffy couldn't do with armament Haki alone. And just like with Whitebeard and Roger, Luffy and Kaido's clash with infused Conqueror's Haki wouldn't even require their weapons to touch. It was like Luffy's slippers versus Kaido's massive kanabo. Since Conqueror's Haki is basically pure willpower, it can also be applied to wild beasts and animals, kinda like an animal whisperer, beast taming. It's a bit different from when Shanks scared off the Lord of the Coast that I mentioned earlier, because that was just basically making the sea beast scram. With beast taming, Luffy takes it a step further. He uses his pure willpower to calm any beast and befriend them. Some of the beasts he was able to tame were Motobaro, Duval's bison, Musi, the brutal bull in the Korda Coliseum, and Hihimaru, the baboon in Wano. Now compared to Luffy, Shanks is definitely still way ahead in using Conqueror's Haki. I mean, he arguably has the strongest Haki and can use each type to the highest degree. Just look at how this dog can even use Conqueror's Haki remotely with Haki projection. Back in Wano, Shanks showed just how terrifying his Haki can be when he stopped and paralyzed Admiral Ryokogyu from miles away at sea by unleashing a massive burst of his Conqueror's Haki. Like, that's nuts. On top of his insane ability, Shanks possesses an even more powerful Haki, the God tier, Observation Haki Killing. Like, after mastering Haki, he even breaks all its rules. It's like Shanks can mentally time travel with his willpower because according to One Piece Volume 4 Billion, he can completely shut down the target's ability to use Future Sight with just his Haki, giving him the title of Killer of Observation Haki. But going back to Observation Haki, there's another ability that's still completely shrouded in mystery, and it's similar to Observation Haki, yet quite different. The Breath of All Things. Basically, this ability works the same as Observation Haki, but instead of targeting an opponent, it senses the objects around the user. Kinda like in JJK when Maki Zennin learned to sense everything. The first time it was mentioned when Zoro fought Daz Bones in chapter 195, during their battle back in Alabasta. Daz Bones was overpowering Zoro, until our guy turned the tide when he sensed something alive inside inanimate objects, like the falling rocks around him. Now, you might say that this could simply be Observation Haki, but according to Rayleigh in chapter 597, Observation Haki is the ability to sense an opponent, so there must be some kind of intent from a living being before the user can activate this type of Haki. In a sense, the Breath of All Things is different from basic Observation Haki, since non-living objects don't have that kind of intent. Zoro unlocked this ability after remembering his sensei Koishiro's words, saying that the highest form of swordsmanship is the power to protect what one wishes to protect and cut what one wishes to cut. Like a real deal swordsman can cut through steel, but can also refrain from cutting a piece of paper if they don't intend to slice it. And you know what's even cooler? Old man Hyogoro also said the same thing to Luffy when he was training him in Udon. Well, it's not that surprising since Zoro's sensei and Zoro himself are from a family that came from Wano, the Shimotsuki clan. So they learned the same swordsmanship from the samurai country. So does that mean the Breath of All Things is like Wano's version of Observation Haki? Just like how they have their own version of Advanced Armament Haki in Rio. But as mysterious as it may be, nothing beats the ultra rare ability, the Voice of All Things. It's like Professor X's telepathy, since the user can literally hear the thoughts of ancient beings like Zunisha and even the kings of the sea, the Neptunians. The only people known gifted with this power are Roger, Odin, Luffy, and Momo, with Momo being the only one who can communicate back and even command the millennia-old elephant Zunisha. This insane ability can even hear and somehow understand the poneglyphs. According to Big Mom, hearing the voice of all things is also an innate ability of the Three-Eye tribe, but Big Mom was just obsessed with unlocking the message of the poneglyphs. So it wasn't clear if, aside from reading the poneglyphs, the Three-Eye tribe, like Pudding, could also communicate with Zunisha and the Neptunians. But I think the poneglyphs, Wano, and Zunisha are all somehow connected. You see, the Kozuki clan was responsible for creating the poneglyphs, and since Odin and Momo could communicate with Zunisha, the clan in their country must have something to do with the Void Century, and maybe also with Joy Boy. Could it be possible that Wano was actually part of the war against the world government back then? Like they created the poneglyphs just to retain the original history. And since the Three-Eye tribes could read them, the world government eliminated the whole race, just like what Vegapunk mentioned in his broadcast. Additionally, one of the ancient weapons is buried deep within Wano. Plus in chapter 1120, it was shown that the giant robot, possibly created by Joy Boy, also communicates via this ability, which is why Luffy was the only one who could hear it. Aside from the Kozuki clan, it seems like this ability might actually now be unique to none other than the D clan.